Welcome to the Hockey Writers Union Junction, a weekly show from our Columbus Blue Jackets insider, Mark Scheig, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, he covers everything that happens with the Jackets. So get ready. It's time for another get-together at Union Junction.
Well, hello, hockey fans. Welcome back to Union Junction. It is December the 30th. Really, we're 2 days away from a new year already. Wow, where did all the time go? It's too bad that there's anything going on in the hockey world, but we're here to break it down for you. You got Cody alongside this week, and we have a special guest for you guys because you may have heard there is some stuff going on in Cleveland right now, and I mean a lot of stuff. And if there's anybody that covers the Cleveland Monsters more than this individual, I am not aware of them. So I thought this would be a perfect time to bring in our former The Hockey Writers colleague and currently with Full Press Hockey, covering a lot of things, more than just the Monsters, a lot of things in the AHL. It's Elaine Shircliff. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Oh, gosh. I wish we had stuff in the hockey world to talk about. What about you?
I mean, I would say yes, but it's kind of nice to have a holiday week where I don't have a ton of stuff to cover.
Mm-hmm.
But I do miss it because I like being in the arena. Typically, I go away for New Year's Eve, and I'm not this year because I don't know what's going to happen.
So let's start there, right? So the Monsters, obviously in a huge COVID situation. I know some teams around the league, I think Rockford comes to mind and a couple of others, have announced who's been in protocol, at least as far as I can tell. I don't see that the Monsters have done that. Did you happen to know at all how deep the situation is with COVID with the Monsters or how widespread it is? Because they've had several games canceled. The games over in Eastern Pennsylvania have been postponed. There might be more. What do you know about this?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The Monsters play it close to the chest, and that makes it a little tough when you have in-person post-game and you don't know if you've been exposed or not. I did take a COVID test. I'm negative, so
yes,
that's good. But yeah, they're one of the four teams I cover. They're the one that's like the toughest to get injury or COVID related things out of. We don't even really ask now. And I think that stems from the Jackets because what people don't know about the AHL is if a two-way player is injured, it's up to the club, the parent club, to decide if it's okay for everyone to know.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I know, speaking from experience, the Monsters have always been tight-lipped. Mm-hmm. Even going back to the Bill Zito days, you could not get anything from them. And now with Chris Clark in charge, that really hasn't changed. And even at the parent club level, especially when it comes to COVID or anything like that, they tend to lean to be quiet. So the obvious takeaway here, though, and the reason why I thought this would be a good time to talk about the Monsters, the Blue Jackets still have 4 guys in protocol as we speak. And you wonder about, if the Monsters have a COVID problem, maybe that's why some of the guys that you would expect to get a call up, like to the taxi squad, that hasn't happened. And it just makes you wonder, competitively speaking, can they ice a full roster if the guys in Cleveland are going through COVID protocol? Like if it's a widespread situation, maybe that explains some of the cancellations and some of the things that the Blue Jackets have gone through recently. So does it surprise you that a guy like Liam Foudy, let's say, someone who, former first round pick, been with the Monsters pretty much most of the season, somebody like him didn't get the call? I guess fans want to know, from what you've seen of him, how has he looked to you?
I think that he doesn't belong down there. He's playing a whole different game, but I don't really know what the Jackets are trying to replace with the guys that they called up at the taxi squad.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are like, well, this guy's really good, so we should call him up to replace this fourth liner. And that's just not how that works. I know it's a different team, but Ben Simon from the Grand Rapids Griffins explained it in a way that was beautiful. Is, he got called up to coach as head coach for Grand Rapids, and someone questioned that, and he said they were looking for a head coach. So that's why he got the call to have that specific role, and they called up the other coach for the same reason. And I think maybe that's what's happening here in Cleveland, is the role that they want for Liam Foudy. That person's either not out or he's not ready for that specific role. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, other than maybe he has COVID, but obviously I don't know. And I'm not going to put any rumors out there.
Yeah, that's the last thing we're going to do. We're not going to, she doesn't know. I don't know. I don't think anybody that's covered the Blue Jackets or the Monsters even know. That's something that if it happens to get out, so be it. But we're sitting here right now. We don't know the situation. The team obviously knows, and there's questions out there about, like I said, about call-ups, and with games being canceled, obviously something's going on. So we sit here, we wish nothing but the best for recovery. Hope that everyone is either asymptomatic or very mild symptoms, and they get back up and going quickly. They certainly do need that right now. Cody?
Yeah.
I guess, do you feel like this is going to have a long-term stunt on the growth of the players up in Cleveland?
Like the taxi squad or this situation?
Just the whole situation, taxi squad, the whole COVID situation. Do you think it's going to have any long-term effects on their development?
I would think so. There are players that need to play, and if they're not playing, they're just being wasted. That's how I feel like that's what happened to Cole Sherwood last year. He sat a lot. And then when he played, it wasn't to his normal style of play, which then gave everyone a skewed view of how he plays. Like Scott Harrington can play pretty much off the bench because he's used to being a seventh defenseman. But a guy like Liam Foudy or even Tyler Sikura, putting them up in the taxi squad and having them not play, it's a semi disservice to their development and their skills and what they bring to the table.
Interesting. And so that kind of leads to the next question, talking about the taxi squad in particular, and two guys that did get the call right away here. And they might even be able to get into a game depending on the Blue Jacket situation. That's Josh Dunne and Tyler Sikura. Dunne had a little bit of a cup of coffee with the Blue Jackets, spent some time with Cleveland. And Tyler Sikura is somebody I'm really fascinated by, especially the persistence he's had to have. Always played a top role in the AHL, really hasn't had the chance to break through in the NHL. So just your viewings of them, if they happen to get in a game, what do you feel like the Blue Jackets fans can expect from the two of them?
It depends on where they put them, to be honest. If the Jackets slot them into a role where they belong, but putting them on the fourth line or the third line is just not going to do well for them unless they're rolling all four lines evenly.
Yeah.
But if they're not allowed to, like Tyler Sikura is great at drawing up plays and helping them and really being like the middleman in the play as well. He's so great at that. And if he is not on the ice for a long time, if he's just there basically to be a shift changer, they're not going to be able to get a view of what he's like. But if they really play him, if they allow him to play the way that he plays, they will see a good face-off taker. They will see someone who can match the speed if allowed. He keeps the defense also on, makes sure that no one goes offsides. I don't think I have ever seen his line go offsides. And when I say that, anytime he's on the ice and the Monsters have ever been called for offsides, it's very rare that Tyler Sikura is on the ice, which could prove helpful to the Jackets not going offsides.
Oh, gosh, right? Yeah, they could use all the help they could get on that front. Right. Well, I've had some time off to think about it too.
Right. And Josh Dunne, I like watching him play. I think he still needs development, but there's not a ton in Cleveland to bring up, because the best players are truly their AHL only players. And when I say, I don't mean just like statistically speaking, I mean all the way around. You know, you have like Brendan Gaunce, and he's the king of D-zone face-offs, like especially on the power play, and that's something that the Monsters do not excel at all. You know, and he went on a point streak, and he draws up these plays, and you know, Brett Gallen has become so good. And I don't know what happened to Justin Scott, but after he didn't get offered a contract with the Jackets again, and then the Monsters brought him back, he just became a different player. He came, like, you see the glimpses of what he was in the OHL, and he's just playing some of his best hockey, you know? And so it's hard to say who they should bring up, because like Josh Dunne, yes, he needs a lot of work, but there's not a lot of people that they can pull from.
Well, that's an interesting thing about this when you say pulling up, because the Blue Jackets have had to make a few call-ups from there, like Justin Danforth earned an opportunity. Gavin Bayruth has really taken off. You know, the Monsters have really missed both of their presence, but that speaks to the development there. So can you just kind of give fans a sense of just what the Monsters do development-wise to make sure guys like Bayruth, or make sure guys like Danforth and Dunne and others, you know, Kevin Stenlin, I know, has had to go back and forth a little bit. What do they do specifically to make sure from a developmental standpoint that they're ready for a call-up? Because it seems like the two teams definitely operate very similarly in terms of the style they like to try to play.
Right. So starting with John Madden's second year coaching, they started to play the same system. I think that came into play after Mads was in, sorry, my cat wants out. Okay. I think that came into play when Mads won the tournament in Traverse City, and they did it partially based off of the same systems as what the Jackets had. And then also with, I mean, Coach Eves says it, and Coach Letestu and Vogelhuber, they just speak a lot to the character of the guys this season, while they are really struggling with consistency. And that's something that they bring up a lot, is that consistency is something that they just can't wrangle this year. Everyone is down there to help the team. And so when they're in Cleveland, they're not thinking about going up top. Like, it's in the back of their head, you know, like to go up, but it puts them in a better mental place for them to be like, this is where I'm at. I can shoot for greatness, but my goal is to help here. Like Kevin Stenlin and Jay Christensen, when we interviewed them after a game, they were one right after the other, and they both said, I'm just here to help. I'm here to help. We're all here to help. And it's just the theme. And I think that has allowed them to kind of come up and slot in where they belong, as long as they're being put into the spot where they belong.
Elaine Shircliff joining us from Full Press Hockey, covers the AHL and the Cleveland Monsters as well. Elaine, just got two more for you. One, you brought up Coach Eves there and some of the other coaches, and Letestu and Vogelhuber. I know Eves has not been on the bench all the time. So I just wonder, from the games that you've seen, what kind of an impact has that had on the team? And then what kind of an opportunity does that give Trent Vogelhuber, Mark Letestu, and others, given what Coach Eves is going through?
Yeah, so Coach Eves may not be on the bench. I don't think he went on the last road trip. I think he was having shoulder surgery.
Yep.
But before that, he would be up top. He'd be watching the game in the box, and he could see down. And I think that's actually helped them try to pinpoint some of the issues on the ice with the lack of consistency, because there's some things that you just can't see unless you're looking from down, down on the whole ice.
Right.
I think that everyone is responding very well to the coaches. I think there are some players, some younger-ish players, who are having a little difficulty partially because like they played with Mark or they grew up watching him, or like Trent is so close to their age. You can see some of the disconnect, like when they pull people off the ice for a line change or something like that. But that comes with age and coaching and wisdom, and the leadership is quick to get on that when they see it. So that's a plus. But I honestly think that like Mark Letestu he's really into it. Like he really enjoys it. And I could honestly see him being the next head coach.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So one last one for you now. Just kind of, I guess, what is next for the team? They've obviously had some games postponed, against, I believe, Hershey and against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Also in January, there are going to be some home games where I believe I saw that Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse is having mask requirements back. What can we expect to see from the Monsters once they get back games underway here?
So I actually I don't know. I haven't seen anything about the mask requirements yet. At least not something we've heard from the Monsters.
Well, I'll break in, and it's on the website, actually dated today. So let's do breaking news.
Okay.
Why not? Let's do breaking news on a podcast. Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse announces temporary mask requirements for all events, and will now require all fans ages 2 and over attending events, including Cavs and Monsters games, wear a mask that covers both mouth and nose when inside the venue and in their seats, unless actively eating or drinking. It will start for this Friday, December 31st, for the Cavs Atlanta Hawks game. But again, it goes over to Monsters games as well within Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
Right. Yeah. I didn't even know that. I didn't get there's nothing in my email. So that's where I tend to unfortunately ride or die by is my email, because I can't check websites all the time.
Yeah. And I guess the thing that we want to focus on kind of on the what's next is they've had the postponed games. I mean, is there going to be a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel here? Like, are we going to start to get back into some consistency? Like, any idea what we can expect?
To be honest, I mean, their next home game isn't until the 18th, and that's a Tuesday. So it's like a long time before they come home, and they play Milwaukee, Grand Rapids. They do the Midwest swing kind of thing, as I like to call it. The Lake Michigan swing. So they go Grand Rapids, Chicago, Rockford. And I want to be like super positive and confident that these games will all take off. But, Rockford is dealing with a lot of their own issues right there. Mm-hmm. And Chicago partially had to postpone games because they couldn't take more players up from Rockford, because there was like 9 or 10 of them in COVID protocol. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. And Grand Rapids has actually been pretty decent with their COVID issues, so that's a plus.
Interesting.
Milwaukee has to deal with Nashville's issues. So honestly, like, I wish I knew, because I was so sure in March of 2020 that the season was going to finish. Mm-hmm. And it didn't. So I'm not about to make any sort of I'm not going to make any guesses.
Probably smart. Yeah.
I think it's going to be tough though, because for all the teams, not just Cleveland, but like, I think it's going to be tough for all the teams, because the NHL teams are taking them up. So there's no real rest. They're sick. They have COVID. They test positive. Then they test negative, and they're sending them up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we don't really know what's going to happen at the AHL level, what kind of product there's going to be, how many PTOs, how many ECHLers. Last year, both Cleveland and both Cleveland, Chicago, and Grand Rapids at multiple times rolled with like 10 forwards or 9 forwards and 7 defenders, or they would roll with a very short bench. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling we're going to be dealing with that again this year.
Yeah, I believe so. Fans, make sure that you follow Elaine out on Twitter at I'm a Rain Dancer. Really great stuff covering the AHL and the Monsters with Full Press Hockey. Elaine, thank you so much for joining us here. We very much appreciate your insight.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I enjoy talking about all my children that I write about, as I like to call it. Each team is like my child.
There you go. Well, fans, stay tuned for part 2. Me and Cody will be back. We'll have some Blue Jackets talks, so stick right there. All right, gang, welcome back to part 2 of Union Junction. It's Mark and Cody with you this week. Great conversation with Elaine Shircliff talking about the Monster situation. And, we really don't know a lot because, the Blue Jackets really don't get into injury situations with the Monsters too much. It's really their call to make. So we don't know how widespread their COVID situation is. And, it's affecting call-ups and other things like that. So good stuff from her. But Cody, we look forward. We actually have some games to come talk about here, including tonight, Thursday. As we're recording this, the game is on. But they host the Nashville Predators at Nationwide Arena. First game since their 5-2 loss to the Edmonton Oilers. So I guess the first question for you is, how exciting is it to actually have games again after such a long layoff?
It's very exciting. I'm so tired of watching bad football.
I have to ask, bad football is in what? What have you been watching?
These bowl games.
Oh.
These names are nuts. I think we had the Roof Claim Boca Raton Bowl last weekend.
Who watches this stuff besides you?
I do. A lot of people, apparently.
I guess it just goes to show how boring some people's lives are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, yeah, it's nice to be able to get back into the swing of things with games. And it actually turns out that because of postponed games, they actually have 5 of their next 6 all of a sudden at Nationwide Arena. So certainly an opportunity for them to get back on the right side of things. Last we left them, they were in a tailspin. Like, they lost in Vancouver, heartbreaking way, got steamrolled in Edmonton before they could even really get going. And then the season got postponed. So is there any way that we can tell what to expect from this team with a couple practice days this week and then going into a game against Nashville?
I think we can expect them to be rusty.
Yeah.
Luckily, they have some of their experience, like Boone Jenner back, Jack Roslovic. But unfortunately, I think we're going to see more of where they left off, with just incomplete games, blown leads, or not showing up for a game at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're back at home. They have the home road split thing is really fascinating, where they just awesome at Nationwide Arena, and they just cannot figure it out on the road. But the next few games obviously present some different situations. They have Nashville. Nashville's got their own COVID situation going on. Roman Josi, the latest one to go into COVID protocol, but they do get Ryan Johansson back, so he gets to come back to Nationwide Arena. Just, do we even really know what's going to happen? Because every team is in a different situation, with some have a couple players on protocol, some have many, including some pretty big names out there. I know Nashville, the first game ended up being 6-0, and that was a steamrolling by the Predators. Do we really know what's going to happen here? I mean, with the layoff, you mentioned rust. There's also the rest factor where, guys can't wait to get back out and playing. It's really a crapshoot, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what's going to make these next couple of weeks very interesting in the NHL. We don't know what we're going to see from who.
Yeah, and we talked to Elaine earlier too, Cody, about the Monsters, and the taxi squad is a thing again. Josh Dunne is here, Tyler Sikura is here. Possibility that they can get into the lineup depending upon. They got players they have to fill. There's still 4 guys on protocol, including adding Gavin Bayreuther today, actually on Wednesday, to COVID protocol. Oliver Bjorkstrand is still in protocol as we speak. Eric Robinson and Jonas Korpisalo. So we got Elvis Merzlikins, we have Daniil Tarasov. But the Monsters, they have their own COVID situation where we talked to Elaine. We don't know how deep that it is. Just I can't help but wonder how much of an impact that's going to have, not only on the Monsters, but on the Blue Jackets, because guys they probably want to call up can't if they're in protocol. But at the end of the day, we don't really know who is in that situation, but that's got to affect them. And it almost feels to me like whoever manages COVID protocol the best is going to get a major leg up in this. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. I mean,
so at a point, it's going to come down to luck for a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And Calgary had how many guys on protocol, but it seems like that they're ready to come back. I mean, but at the same time, yes, they have all the time off. Let's talk about the schedule here, because I think like Calgary's got 54 games in the next 118 days. That's a lot of hockey. Where if you average, you go a stretch of 118 games where you're going almost every other night. And there's going to be like the Blue Jackets, they've had several postponed games here, including Montreal, including Chicago, including Toronto, including the 2 Buffalo games, including the game against Calgary. Those have to be made up at some point. So is that another worrying thing in your mind, that teams like the Blue Jackets are not only going to have to play a lot of games coming up here, that Olympic break, since we don't have the Olympics anymore, they're going to have to make up games where they're going to have to travel and put 6 games up. I mean, how worrisome is that for you?
Very worrisome. That's a lot of hockey, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, with a young team like the Blue Jackets have, that might just be too much. I think they're going to have their fair amounts of struggles during that time.
Just because it's such a young team, or is there something else in play, do you think?
I think just it's a young team they're not used to playing hockey like that. A lot of the guys, I don't believe. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong there. And just what is more concerning to me is you have to feel like the Blue Jackets have a huge outbreak. And when is that going to come and put stress on the whole team?
Well, that's just it. And it's interesting you bring that up too, because another big story in the hockey world is the CDC relaxed the guidelines. They shortened the isolation period from 10 days down to 5 days for those that tested positive. So as long as they're asymptomatic, basically if they don't have a fever, they can try to test out and stuff like that. And you just wonder, on one hand, it'll allow players to come back sooner. Okay, that could be a good thing. But on the other hand, if the Omicron virus is out of control and we're getting guys back in 5 days rather than 10, I guess the question we need to consider is, have we seen the worst of it yet? And, you just got done mentioning, the Blue Jackets haven't had the mass outbreak. They've had, a few players certainly go in the protocol, but not like Calgary, where they had almost their whole team in protocol at one point in time. Is this a good thing or a bad thing that they relax the protocols in your mind?
If you are a fan and you're looking for good hockey, it's a good thing. But I don't know. I would say I trust what the CDC has to say, but if I was a player, I would be a little nervous. Sometimes you were thinking had 10 days to stop being contagious, all of a sudden have 5. I would hope it doesn't have a detrimental effect, but unfortunately, I think it's going to cause more outbreaks more often.
Yeah, and I know league-wide too, Vancouver added a couple of guys. I know that that's still a thing. We'll see. They got the enhanced protocols. It seems that this virus, at least this version of it, is more contagious. But at the same time, it seems that most everybody that's been double vaxxed and or boosted has shown mild symptoms at the worst. So it really is a wait and see game to see what the next steps are. Take it day by day, take it even hour by hour, or even down to minute by minute, because things could change. As we're recording this right now, the Blue Jackets are scheduled to play the Nashville Predators, but if other positive test results come back, will there be more postponements? Maybe league wide, maybe within, who knows? That's what makes this kind of a tough situation, and something that we'll keep monitored for you guys.
And I will say, overall, it seems like the Blue Jackets have done a very good job of being cautious during the little outbreak they've had here. I feel like they've handled it and isolated it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, they had the 6 go in when they got back from Canada, and then outside of Beirut, I know they had a Bjorkstrand too. It didn't get to double digits yet. It still could, but at least for now, your point is well taken. I think they have done a nice job of trying to contain it as much as possible. I mean, the way that they handled the Zach Ronaldo situation before the season began, if there's one thing that the Blue Jackets are going to take seriously, is going to be protocols, because it affects the team. And, they want everybody on the same page. And they definitely have done a nice job of that. So, Cody, we're going to end this week with a new segment. This is going to be something that you guys are going to see going into 2022 and beyond here. When Nick will join us as well. We're going to end every show with a new feature called the Lightning Round. It's going to be 2 minutes on the clock, and I'll participate with Cody this week. It's just going to be 5 questions. First thing that comes to your mind about the Blue Jackets, whether it be about some upcoming games or whether it be about some different themes later in the season or just overall. This is just meant to have a little bit of fun, first impulse, just whatever comes to your mind. So we're going to put 2 minutes up here, and we're just going to go. So, Cody, the first question. So there's 3 games that are coming up at home here in the next week: Nashville, Carolina, and Tampa Bay. First question: how many of those games are actually played?
2.
I actually think it'll be all 3. Of course, it will depend on the situation with the other teams, but I could totally see your point too if it ends up being 2, depending on if they can ice a full roster or not. Right now, if they get Boquist or Line off of IR, you got the guys in the taxi squad, it seems like that they're able to do that. So see what happens with that. If they play all 3 games, here's question 2. Nashville, Carolina, Tampa. How many do they win?
1.
You want to say which one?
Nashville.
I say 2, because I think they'll beat Nashville and I think they'll beat Tampa. I know that's probably a little bit of a hot take, but they always play Tampa tough, it seems.
Tampa had those struggles last night too.
Well, and they're not exactly 100% either. They're dealing with they just got Braden Point back, and still obviously a very good team, but they didn't have Vasilevsky. He's in protocol. So that could go either way. Carolina always seems to have the Blue Jackets number. So if they play all 3 of those games, because the games are at home, I say that they win 2 of them. Biggest storyline this week that you are going to follow, Cody?
Clearly, that's going to be the COVID situation.
Yes. That's the obvious low-hanging fruit, is the COVID situation. I just want to see how this team responds. Are they going to be rusty? Are they going to come out with a lot of energy? Are they going to play with purpose? Because they got a lot of games coming up. They got some ground to make up. If they want to make something out of the season from a playoff perspective, they've got to bring it right off the bat. Let's see if they can match that. So outside of the obvious COVID, I'm going to watch how they come out. So 2 more. Kent Johnson, wonderful for the couple of games at the World Juniors. Obviously, the World Juniors were postponed. Maybe it'll come back in the summer. But in the little bit of time that we saw Johnson, in your own words, just how excited should Blue Jackets fans be knowing what Johnson is eventually going to bring to this team?
Very excited. They've been excited about Sillinger. Kent Johnson has the possibility to be even better than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you think about some of the future draft picks that they could add to this team, yeah, the future looks bright. Just it's a change in the overall, kind of the way they do things. It was always big physical before. Now it's a skilled team. Wait till they get here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last question for you, and it's just going to be a funny one. It involves a former Blue Jacket. David Savard scored against Tampa Bay on Wednesday night. That's the third time he's got his last 3 goals have actually all been against the Lightning, despite him winning a cup with the Lightning. My question for you is, does David Savard own the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Yes.
100% yes. He literally saves his bet. And you should have seen the goal he scored. He scored a beauty goal. And
They're
if you look
always
back
like that.
yeah. And in the playoffs, he scored a beautiful goal. Like, he literally saves his best for
Blue Jackets.
Yeah. So if you're looking up Wikipedia, someone should update that page to indicate that David Savard does in fact own the Tampa Bay Lightning. His goal scoring prowess completely proves it. Cody, you did a really good job. It's great to have you back here. And fans, make sure you check out his latest piece as well on the Hockey Writers. He ended up writing some New Year's resolutions that I think the team needs, and I think that you'll enjoy looking at. So make sure you check that out, and make sure you check out all of our other shows. Subscribe, and make sure you hit like, subscribe. We have our morning skate newsletter. You know the drill. We have so many different things for you. You'll never be bored on this site. So make sure you don't miss any of that. As always, we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us blabble about the Blue Jackets and more. Won't be talking to you here until 2022. So hope you all have a very, very happy new year. Be safe, enjoy the time with family and friends. And we will talk to you in 2022 on the Union Junction. So take care.